Yeah. Now, in terms of our next question, so what are the Outer Reaches about, and how did you come to be co-authors with Peter Alden?
So when I was a wannabe writer, um, I had gone to a small writers' convention in Melbourne, where I
Mm,
was living, and I think I'd left the Navy by that stage, but or at least I'd left the full-time Navy. Um,
mm.
and like any wannabe, whatever, writer or actor, you hang around other writers and actors, hoping that something might rub onto you, you know.
Vis-a-vis.
So we met in having a cup of coffee actually, and we just got to talking, and because he was a fellow, well, he'd actually published a couple of books by that stage, and so I likened him straight away. But I was there. I encountered a lady named Devon Madsen, who was at the time an independent, and then she'd had about 4 or 5 books out, and then Del Rey picked her up,
Yeah, yeah.
which, which I think is unusual for an independent to have a publishing company take your previous work and take it upon themselves, which I thought was really good. Uh,
Mhm.
Tracy Joyce was another lady that I encountered that she's got a few books out, and then I started doing more conventions, and these are obviously mostly Australian authors, but there's Russell Kirkpatrick,
Mm.
Cat Sparks, I think. Yeah, well, now my memory's failing me, but so I met Pete there, and because we both lived in Melbourne, and we sort of had similar ideas, or at least writing ideas, so we just kept in contact, and then flash forward a few years. I loved Firefly, and he did too, of course. But he was a big Star Wars lover, which is good because I didn't mind it. Anyway, so I wanted to branch out into something new, and I suppose it was because I wanted to reminisce of Firefly. So I had a Maverick crew thrown together for various reasons, and and I asked him, I reached out and said, have you ever thought of doing a science fiction, as in a like co-authoring? Because he'd had a couple of books um, in the sci-fi genre at that time. And he had a idea of a futuristic Roman Empire.
Mm.
And and so we came together and we mulled around a few ideas, and the Outer Reaches came into fruition. So, but we've we didn't we had he I think he'd written a co-authored a book before, but it was first time for me.
Mm.
Um, but our two parties were chalk and cheese. So he was an Imperial Force, my with Maverick crew. Normally, if they encountered each other under normal circumstances, they would shoot each other. Um, and they started to do a little bit of that, but then they realised they had a common goal, and that they neither one could do it by themselves. So they joined forces and overcame the goal, and the survivors split up. So we didn't actually, our two parties didn't encounter each other till around about chapter 13.
Mm.
My crew were doing stuff, so we swapped chapters. So my crew would do stuff, his crew would do stuff, and obviously you could read as a reader, sorry, you could see that we were getting closer to each other without each each party knowing about it. Um, and then and then we met, and we, like I said, we didn't shoot each other completely, and we realised that we had a common goal. And we were picked up by a small press publisher at the time, and they said, "This is great. We want one book is good, 3 books are better, a series is better." And we explained that because of the differences of opinion of the two groups, that we split up at the end of book 1. And they said, "Fine, you know, we don't care. We'll have 3 books." So his group went off to do a completely different scenario. Same, so they're not books 1, 2, and 3. It's book 1 and 2 sequels. And my group go off and do something completely different in another part of the galaxy. Basically, the same timeline, but just in different sections. So that was we call it when we're talking, we call it Tor, the Outer Reaches. So book one is Iconic, which is basically named after the massive ship that we come across. And then he goes off. He's in book in the second sequel, shall we say, is Questa, which is a Roman judge, jury, and executioner type character. And my group go off in the book called Far Horizons, and a bit like Star Trek-ish. It's the same universe, but they don't interact with each other after that.